Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to look at creating some form of way to detonate an event which will then break down this wall here. So as you can see, we've got this basic game setup where if I go left, right, up and down, we've got collisions here so that I can't get through this wall at all. Now I've made this game a lot smaller, so it's only running at something like 700 pixels by 500, so it's only a small tutorial just to show you how to do something like this. Okay, so let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to import a new sprite. Now the sprite is available on the website above, so if you need to right click and save these, there's around about 4 or so images you need to save into a folder. I'm going to right click on the sprites, go to create, and then I'm going to click on sprite. Once we've done that, we're going to call this sprite S wall broken, and what we're going to do then is select this edit image box here. I'm just going to hide this one here for now. I'm going to drag in the images that we're going to use, which are here. Look, we've got wall block cracked 2, 3 and 4. So I'm going to highlight them all, click, drag, and then drop them in here. So you can see we have a progression there. I'm going to remove the first image here because we don't need it, and you can see there the images now are nice. There's 5 in total. So I'm going to click on the close here, and then we're going to have to change the frames per second. So if I just play this animation now, you can see the wall is breaking too quick. So let's change that down to something like either 2 or 3 frames. There we are, that's fine. In fact, we can go a little bit slower. Let's go down to 2. There we are, that's perfect. That's okay. Okay, so we can close that. What we're going to do is you're going to create a new object here. So right click, object, go down to object. And then we're going to call this one O broken wall. And I'm going to set the sprite here to be this broken wall here. Now I am going to make this a solid object for now, and then I'm going to close that. So if I go back to my room for a second, I'm going to make sure I'm on the correct layer, so I'm on the wall layer, and I'm just going to delete these 2 items here, and I'm going to replace them with my broken wall just by dragging them in, and I'm going to keep it on this wall layer. Now if we play the game so far, you're going to notice that this now is an animation which is going to loop. It's fine, and my player can actually walk through it. So what we need to do now, we need to set up a collision between this and the wall. Now fortunately we've already got the collision, so if I open my player, you can see we've already got a collision event with a wall. So we're going to use the same code. This is a really quick way of doing it. So if I right click and then go to copy, and then I right click and then paste, we are going to add in a collision with the object broken wall, and then that code block there will move over. Now if we play our game again, you can see it's there, and if I just walk into it, you can see it's not actually allowing me to go through even when it starts to break, because the object is still there, right? So it hasn't disappeared. Now the next thing we need to do is stop this animation from playing. So I'm going to double click on O broken wall, and then I'm going to go to add event and a create event. And what we want to do is we want to set the animation speed to 0. Now if you look here, there's a block here that says animation speed. So if we set the speed to 0, what will happen when we play the game is it'll only show obviously the first frame. There's a few ways we can do that, but that's probably the quickest to do for now. So again, this now looks exactly the same as the other blocks, which is pretty neat. Now we need to get some form of event here so that when my player hits whatever we put here, it's going to trigger this action here so that my wall will slowly disappear. So to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to add in a new sprite. So right click on sprites, go to create and then sprite, and we're going to call this S Detonator. Now I'm going to go back to edit image, and this time we are going to now look for my detonator image, which again you'll need to save from the website above. So if I just drag these in here, you can see we're going to do the same thing as we did before. I'm going to click on the X here, and you can see there, look, it's got image 1. Let me zoom that out a little bit because it's a bit pixelated. So it's got image 1 there, and then that one is obviously the detonator is down. Great. Okay, so let's close that and let's make a detonator object. Ooh, one thing before we do this, obviously we've got it set to 30 frames per second. It doesn't really matter with this because we're not really going to be using this frames per second much, but I'm going to put it to 0 for now anyway, because I don't want this to actually play or change at all. So if I click on the close, and then we're going to make an object, so right click on objects, go to create, and let's go to object again. We're going to call this Detonator, and press enter to save it. Let's set the sprite, go to create, and then we're going to set the detonator. And what we're going to do then, go back to our room for a second, and I'm going to add in a new layer here, and we're just going to right click on that layer, go to rename, and call this detonator as well. And I'm just going to drag the detonator to here for now. Okay, now this isn't actually going to do anything yet because we haven't set up a collision. So if I go over to my detonator here, it doesn't actually do anything. So what we need to do now is we need to have a collision with the detonator and the player, so that when the player hits the detonator goes down, and then that triggers an event here which will make these crumble. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the code behind the detonator. You could put it behind the player if you want, but I'm going to put it behind the detonator. So I'm going to basically say when the detonator comes into contact with the player, what I want to do is I want the detonator to go into the next frame. So in order to do that, I'm going to use this set sprite, and I'm going to cheat a little bit just by saying set sprite and go to frame number 1. Okay, so if we play that, there you are, you can see, look, it's just gone down there. So once my detonator is set, ideally now what should happen is these two now should crumble. So to do that, what we can do is we can basically say, right, set animation speed to 1, but we don't want it to affect the detonator object. So what we want to do is we're going to basically say, right, well, click on this little arrow button here, and we want to say, right, which object? Well, it's the object which is the broken wall. So basically what this does is it tells now the broken wall object to start to play. So let's play that. Okay, so now when I hit that, look, the broken wall goes. But the problem we've got is essentially it keeps on running time and time again. Now what I really want is, if I go over here, even when it's there, because it's still, the object is still actually there, it's just the sprite is playing, what I need it to do is actually get rid of the object at the end of the animation. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back to my broken wall, and we are going to add in an event which is under the other. And what we want to say is when the animation ends, we want to use this option here, which is destroy the instance. So let's play that and see what that does. So if I go here, the detonator goes. That now then allows us to walk out. So essentially what this is doing is it's saying, right, when the animation, so when the last frame of the sprite is over, we want to destroy broken wall, and obviously once the instance is destroyed, our little player can move through it.